How's it going, everyone? It's DK with RPM Gaming, where we talk about retro PC and mobile gaming. And today we're going to see if the Steam controller can beat out my favorite controller, the 8BitDo Ultimate Wireless 2. So let's open up the Steam controller and get to it. I like how Valve's packaging is always plain and simple, nothing flashy, just straight to the point. And around back, it shows you what you get in the box: the USB cable, the puck, and the controller. Inside the box, we've got a QR code that'll take you to Steam's support page for the Steam controller. And of course, we've got the controller, the puck, then up here we've got our USB-A to USB-C cable and our instruction manuals. And this is a really long cable. It's about 5 foot long. On the puck, we've got our 3 charging pins and then USB-C connection up top. And I believe this is a 2.4 gigahertz connection. And just first thoughts on the controller, this feels really comfortable in the hands. We have rubber membrane connection on the face buttons as well as the D-pad. Buttons are pretty quiet. Our thumbsticks have a good amount of tension on them and really smooth travel with a concave top. And of course, we've got the track pads here. I'm not sure how many people use these. I use them occasionally, but not very often. We've got our quick access menu button, our start and select buttons, and our Steam button. Around back, we've got our 3 charging pins at the top and our L4, L5, R4, R5 buttons. These triggers are Hall effect triggers and they have a good amount of travel to them, and the tension also feels pretty nice as well. Up top, the shoulder buttons are pretty quiet and feel really nice. And there's also a USB-C connection up top for the controller if you want to go the wired route. As I mentioned before, the controller feels really comfortable in the hands. If you've ever held a Steam Deck, it feels almost exactly the same, just smaller. Hold it in the hands like this and pressing all those buttons just feels really satisfying. Now let's take a look and see how this stacks up against my favorite controller, the 8BitDo Wireless Controller 2. And right away we can see that we have 2 different thumbstick layouts on these controllers. Both controllers do have TMR thumbsticks. The 8BitDo is pretty comfortable in the hands and I don't mind this layout here, but I gotta be honest, the Steam controller feels a lot more comfortable in the hands. And I think that's due to it being a little bit bigger and a little wider than the 8BitDo controller. And after holding the Steam controller, I think I prefer this layout here, especially for the more modern games. And the D-pad and face buttons are also easy to reach as well. The face button and D-pads on the 8BitDo are rubber membrane connection, and the same on the Steam controller as well. The face buttons and D-pad on the 8BitDo seem a little more clicky and a little louder than what's on the Steam controller. And like I mentioned before, that Steam controller is just a little bit bigger than that 8BitDo. The thumbsticks on both controllers have about the same amount of tension to them. The 8BitDo has that metal neck on it, while the Steam controller doesn't, but both feel really smooth in travel. Comparing the D-pads on the two, they both seem really well to me, but on the Steam controller, the texture is a lot smoother on this D-pad, and I think that's going to cause less wear on your thumbs. Now the Steam controller doesn't have as many buttons as the 8BitDo, but I don't really use all these buttons anyway, even though they're nice to have. And these have more of that dome switch connection on the shoulder buttons, whereas these on the Steam controller, they're a lot quieter. As far as triggers go, both have about the same amount of travel as well as the same amount of tension. And these are Hall effect triggers on both controllers. The 8BitDo, of course, has the trigger locks, turning these into hair triggers. The Steam controller doesn't have this feature, but you can set it up in the software. 8BitDo's got the 2 buttons on the back, where Steam has the 4 buttons. And like I mentioned, I don't really use all these buttons, but if you're someone who does, it's nice to have them. The 8BitDo controller has a 1000 Hz polling rate, but I believe the Steam controller is only 250 Hz polling rate. As far as the texture of the controllers, the 8BitDo controller has a lot smoother texture, whereas the Steam controller has more of a matte finish to it. For me personally, I like the feel of the Steam controller just a little bit more, with that matte texture. The charging dock on the 8BitDo seems to be a lot more convenient to me than the puck for the Steam controller. This seems a lot more convenient to set up and a lot cleaner look. Now there will be community solutions for a dock made for this puck, but we don't have them just yet. As far as the connection goes though, it's magnetic and just snaps right on. The only thing is you're just going to have a cord laying out in the way depending on where you set it up at. When you power on your controller for the first time, you'll hear it turn on just like the Steam Deck, and then you'll be prompted to update your firmware. So you'll just click next. It'll tell you to make sure you have all of your pucks plugged into your PC so they can all be updated at the same time. So now that you've got your controller on and your puck plugged in, just go through the prompts and hit next. The first thing it'll do is update your Steam puck. And once the puck is finished updating, you'll want to unplug it and then plug in your Steam controller. And now your Steam controller will start updating. And once it makes a little noise, you'll get the setup complete message. Just click close. And now you're ready to go. You unplug your controller and then plug your puck back in. Now we've got full control with our controller. And I'm sure you guys have heard by now about the rumors about the controller screaming if you drop it. Well, let's test it out. There it went. So we're going to test out the 8BitDo Ultimate Wireless 2 controller first on Celeste. We're going to be doing the D-pad test on this, and then we'll stack it up against the Steam controller and see how it does. And the 8BitDo controller has a 1000 Hz polling rate. And like I mentioned earlier, the Steam controller has a 250 Hz polling rate, which is about a 4 millisecond delay. Now I don't think I'm going to be able to tell that, but someone who's in competition shooters and stuff like that, they might be able to. And this is a really nice and precise D-pad, and even though it's not as smooth as the Steam controller D-pad, this is still really comfortable to me. And now here we go with the Steam controller testing out the D-pad on it. And right away, even though the 8BitDo D-pad is comfortable, this Steam controller with a smoother D-pad just feels a lot more comfortable to my thumbs. I really like this D-pad on this controller. And like we talked about before with the 250 Hz polling rate, I'm not really able to notice it on this. I believe it's like a 4 millisecond delay, so I'm not too sensitive to that. So overall, I think this is doing pretty well. All the movements on the D-pad seem to be pretty precise, just like on the 8BitDo. And now let's switch over to the 8BitDo and try it out on some Street Fighter 6. We'll use Ryu this time, just for something a little different. And while it is easy to hit the special moves, there's a huge difference between this D-pad and the Steam controller D-pad. That Steam controller D-pad is just a lot more smooth. So I guess it all just depends on what you're used to. But for me personally, the D-pad on the Steam controller wins out over this one on the 8BitDo Ultimate Wireless 2 controller. This is still a really precise D-pad though, and a great alternative to that Steam controller. But we can't be going out like that. Come on, Ryu. Ken would have done a better job. Now we're talking. So we can still get the job done with this D-pad too. But like I said, I prefer that smooth D-pad on the Steam controller. Testing out the Steam controller on a little Street Fighter 6 to see how that D-pad does on a fighting game. And the edges on that D-pad, like I mentioned earlier, they're super smooth. It's really easy on your thumbs. Now don't mistake my poor fighting style for a lack of the inputs here, because the inputs seem to be really good on this controller. At least from what I can tell anyway. And like always, you know Ken Master's got that victory. Let's see how round 2 goes. And I think whenever I'm not hitting these special moves, it's error on my part. They seem pretty easy to hit on here. Another win for Ken and the Steam controller. Now we're going to test out the Gyro and Valormortis with the 8BitDo Ultimate Wireless 2 controller and see how it fares against the Steam controller. Now I've got the Gyro on this set to toggle on and off, so let's toggle it on and see how it does. And it's pretty accurate. Let's go see if we can find some combat and see how it does there. And as you can see right here, I am not that good at gyro, but the controller seems pretty accurate from what I can tell. This is a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. And I'm down again. Let's jump over to the Steam controller now. Now we got the gyro turned on the Steam controller, and let's take a look at it. I don't think I'm being biased, but this does seem a little more accurate than that 8BitDo controller. Let's check it out in the combat. Grab my stuff before he can get me again. Here we go. This is definitely a lot more accurate. We got got him that time. So from what I can tell, the Steam controller wins on the gyro. So for me personally, the new Steam controller has beaten out the reigning champ, the 8BitDo. So this is now my new favorite controller. And I know that right now these are hard to come by, so if you're not able to get a Steam controller, this is a great alternative to it. So whenever I placed my order, I was actually lucky enough to get 2 of these. And this is one that I installed a white dbrand skin on. I really like the look and feel of this skin. It reminds me of a PS5 controller. And for this one, I'm going to be putting this red decorative dbrand skin on it. Alright everyone, that's going to do it for today's video. And yes, the Steam controller did beat out 8BitDo's Ultimate Wireless 2 for me. So this is my new favorite controller right here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Will the Steam controller beat out your favorite controller or not? I mentioned earlier about the community solutions for the dock. We've got that mechanism dock on the way, so keep a lookout. We'll do a little short video for that. As always, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Check out our other videos. We'll see you next time on RPM Gaming.